we're back for Five Nights with Harry by Harry Kurtz. We are on chapter 27, and let's just get right into this. If you want to follow along, chapter link will be in the description below as always. Now let's get started. It was a quiet night at the beginning of December, when suddenly, much to Veronica's surprise, Harry jolted awake with a scream. Reacting, she grabbed him by the shoulders and held him close as he began to calm down. As beside him, Aya appeared and gently hugged him. What the hell just happened? Her face fixed with into a scowl, Aya growled low in her non-existent throat. That bastard hit Harry with some sort of vision. Usually he can stop them, but this time he was able to get through. Both of them were surprised, though, as Harry grabbed Veronica's arm and looked up at her with a pale face. Veronica, I need you to get to Mr. Weasley as fast as possible. Seeing the confused expression, he gulped down some air. He was just attacked by a snake. I was the snake that attacked him, and please. Veronica shared a look with Aya, who gave a nod. Mr. Weasley, that would be Ron's father, right? At Harry's nod, she reached out to look and search for some signature similar to Ron's, and found one that didn't seem to have any humans around him. Okay, I think that I have him. Aya? Take care of Harry and help get someone to help. All Aya did was snort, as if you need to ask me to take care or help him. With a final nod, Veronica stood up and disappeared. Once more, she found herself in that dark room where there was absolutely nothing as she flitted toward where she'd sensed the person before and frowned. What she had not told Harry was that it felt as if it was flickering somehow, and within seconds arrived there. Then she narrowed her eyes as she spotted what Harry had meant, as her appearance had caused both an injured red-headed man and a snake to become stunned. Moving quickly, she covered the distance quickly between where she had appeared and the snake, which had begun to react, but did not react quick enough as Veronica grabbed it. It was all that the injured and stunned Arthur Weasley could do so. But watch as the strange metal fox and the snake fought each other. The snake wrapped itself around the being that had grabbed it and struck again and again. Each time it could sink its fangs into something, it did so. However, Veronica only laughed. Is that supposed to do something for tickle? Well, let me show you how it's done. Then she used her other hand and grabbed the snake just behind the head as her jaws opened wide and lunged. Several hundred miles away, both Lucius and Narcissa were woken by a loud, blood-curdling scream. Quickly throwing their robes on, they rushed from their room. They arrived at the source of the scream to find a dead house elf just outside the opulent's room that they had given to the Dark Lord, and looked in to find him with his eyes wide and what looked like blood dripping from his forehead. My lord? Both barely dodged a curse that blew out a chunk of the wall. Get out! The two considered asking if he needed any help, but they both closed the door behind them as they saw the rage in their master's eyes. However, that was not what shook them to their core. No, they were rather used to seeing rage, especially in the past few weeks. It was the fear they saw that shook the two to the core. Stunned at the black and screaming mist that poured from the snake's ruptured head, Veronica rapidly uncoiled the now limp and twitching body from around her and let it drop. Then turned towards Arthur, only for her to stumble as a green spell smashed into her back. With agonizing slowness, the fox animatronic slowly turned to see a rat-like man with a wand behind her. It took her only a moment to realize that this was Peter Pettigrew from the stories that Harry had told her. Was that supposed to do something? His eyes wide, Peter raised his shaking wand again. Curse you! However, the spell did nothing as Veronica stepped forward and even seemed to rapidly repair her soup, as if it was absorbing the dark magic. Avada Kedavra! The spell hit her, and several holes in her suit repaired themselves. Die! Why won't you die? All he got, though, was a dark chuckle as Veronica kept walking forward. Then she stopped as a red spell shot past her and hit Peter directly, knocking him out. Whipping around, she noticed the wounded order member shaking as he tried to hold his wand straight, despite the pain he was in before it dropped from his hands. Shite! Hold on! Running over, she looked around for something before she grabbed his belt. Knocking his hands away, Veronica scowled. Stop that! I need to try and stop the venom. Wrapping it around his arm at the shoulder, she quickly tightened it enough to stop the blood flow. There. That should help. Blinking blearily, Arthur stared up at her. Help? With what she thought was a comforting smile, but was really terrifying with the bloods and bits of bones and brain matter that dripped from her jaw, Veronica nodded. It should stop the venom from spreading any further. Now this is really going to hurt. Just as she was about to ask what she meant, Veronica gripped around the bite mark and squeezed, which caused Arthur to jerk and scream. However, the fox in her trunk ignored this as she watched black and foaming blood seep out before she grabbed his sleeve and wiped it as best as she could and let go. Face pale, Arthur looked up at her. Who are you? For several moments, Veronica was quiet before she turned to look at him. My name is Veronica, and Harry sent me to help you while he got help. She glanced around and groaned at the sight of the dead snake and the knocked-out man. Then Veronica turned and she felt a hand grip her around her arm. Arthur looked up at her. Harry sent you? To help me? She smiled and nodded. He did. Hearing the shouts coming, she stood. Now then, I have to go before anyone shows up and asks some questions. Then she vanished and Arthur slumped back, though a moment later he could hear one of the other ministry workers appear and shout, What the hell? And everyone gasped a moment later as everything went black for him. Bloody hell! It's Peter Pettigrew! I went to school with him. Both Harry and Hermione were quietly talking in the Gryffindor common room when they heard the portrait swing open and looked to see a somber group of the youngest Weasleys. Harry got up and was about to ask when Ginny spotted him and sprinted across the room before she hugged him tightly. Thank you. Slightly confused, Harry looked down at her as he felt tears soaking his shirt. Then he looked up to see Ron. Mates? For a moment, Ron was quiet before he grabbed Harry in a brotherly hug, as did Fred and George. Mate, if it wasn't for you, Dad would have... There was a strangled sound from his mouth before he continued. It was close, mate. Too bloody close. Dad told us that you didn't only tell Dumbledore, but sent someone to save him. Thanks. Harry was utterly speechless for almost a minute before he managed to get anything out. I was just glad that he was okay. Even though they got some stares and whispers, as no one knew why the Weasleys had not been in classes, all of them just ignored that. Finally, Ron and the others pulled away from the hug. Glancing around, Veronica leaned in and whispered to him, We'd like to meet her. Seeing the confusion on Harry's face, he glanced around. This Veronica who saved him. We want to meet her and thank her for saving him. With a slight frown, Harry looked at a group of students who were trying to pretend that they were not attempting to overhear the conversation. Not here. Let's head up to the dorms. Once they had all entered the fifth-year boys' dorms, Harry checked to make sure that no one else was there. That done, he cast a bunch of privacy charms above the door and the window, which was followed by Fred and George casting some spells ahead themselves. Nodding, Harry smiled. Just give me a moment. As they watched him climb up onto his bed and draw the curtains, Ron leaned towards Hermione. What do you think that's all about? Frowning, Hermione only shook her head some. I don't have the first clue. Just then, Harry climbed out of the bed and Fred glimpsed what looked like a mirror in his hand before he shoved it into the drawer next to his bed. She's on her way, and should only be a minute at most. Raising an eyebrow, Ron glanced around. How's she getting here? I don't see any posters. A chuckle from Harry caused him to shiver before his next words had the effect of ice water down his back. Veronica doesn't need posters to get around. Both Ron and Hermione stared at him as the memories of his aunt visiting them flashed through their heads. Then the room seemed to chill and darken for the briefest of seconds before a golden fox animatronic appeared, standing in the room but slumped forward. After about a second, The fox's eyes glowed, and she straightened and looked around with her head cocked to the side. Harry, you wanted to see me? Nodding, Harry gestured at the shocked Weasley. Veronica, I'd like you to meet Ginny, Ron, Fred, and George Weasley. It was their father that you saved last night. Surprised, she looked towards the family of redheads. He is all right, isn't he? I'm sorry that I had to leave him there, but... Much to her surprise, Ginny walked up until she was standing before Veronica and looking up at her. After a moment, Ginny hugged her, shocking her in the process. He's going to be okay. Thanks to you for rescuing him. Thank you. Unsure how to react, she glanced at Harry, who only smiled. Getting the message, Veronica placed her arms around the girl, hugging her, and hugged her back. I'm glad to hear that he's all right. Walking up, George shook her paw, followed by Fred and then Ron. The youngest Weasley boy cleared his throat. Mom and the others couldn't be here, but she wanted me to tell you thanks, as well, and that, well, Mom would like to meet you in person to thank, and so does Dad. Reeling from the shocks, Veronica only smiled as she felt her heart lighten just a little bit. Thank you. I'll see what I can do to meet them. Dumbledore leaned back into his chair as he considered what he was just told before he looked up. Thank you for that report, Remus. Hopefully we can convince the werewolf packs to at least be neutral. And please, if you believe that whatever idea you have might keep some of them out of Voldemort's hands, then you have my backing to try it. The headmaster then turned towards Kingsley with a serious expression. Now then, how are things in the ministry, Kingsley? Taking a breath, Kingsley let out a breath. The word, headmaster? Chaos. And that would be putting it mildly. It was only luck that I was on scene so soon after what happened and got word to Amelia. A small smile was on Sirius' face as they lifted a glass to Kingsley. And thank you for exposing Wormtail for the piece of Death Eater slime he is. His face then fell a bit. I only wish that author didn't have to get hurt to bring this about. With a slight smirk, Kingsley shook his head. It was not that hard, really. All I had to do was pretend that I was checking him for injuries, which happened to reveal the dark mark on him. Then he sighed as well. But I will agree that I wish that author should not have been harmed. Still, we know he got Peter, which should see him praised as a hero. The issue, though, is what happened to the snake. Theodora, as well as some others, frowned as they spotted blank expressions on some of the Order's faces, including Dumbledore's. Then it was gone as Albus took a drink. That is something that I am still looking into. However, I must ask how Harry Arthur's story is holding up at the moment. It wasn't Kingsley that answered, but rather Hester. In his delirium after the bite, he mentioned a Veronica Fox saved him, though that might not have been her name, as we only have mutters with only every other word understandable. Madame Bones thinks he might have been an animagus. That said, I must admit that the story that Remus and Sirius had us convey to Arthur did throw off various investigators. She sent a smirk towards Sirius, which he grinned at. It's well known that he has informants who tell him about possible muggle baiting incidents before they happened, so him being lured there by someone pretending to be an informant makes sense. And with him being so against people like Malfoy politically, especially with the revelation that Peter is a Death Eater. Slowly, Dumbledore nodded as he thought it over. It looks like an attempt to assassinate him, and with it being outside the Department of Mysteries, the right whispers would mean some might suspect them. Or that Arthur had tried to spy on them and paid for it. How well has it held up? While he shook his head, Kingsley glanced at Molly, who seemed as if she would burst into crying at any moment. It held up very well, though Amelia might suspect there's more to it than that. But she hasn't pushed the matter very far, thankfully. Nodding, the headmaster then turned towards another Order member. That is rather good news. He frowned a bit as he noticed that Snape seemed to be trembling a bit. Are you quite all right to report, Severus? There was a snarl on the potion master's face as he bit back a reply. Yes, I am all right. With just a force of will, he caused his trembles to subside some. The Dark Lord is not just displeased with what has happened, but is quite deranged. A fact he has taken out on various Death Eaters. Peter being captured was bad enough, but the death of Nagini has sent him into a frothing rage. It goes without saying that he has put Arthur a few steps upwards on his list. However, a strange look crossed Snape's face. That is not the most unusual thing about all of this. Curious, Dumbledore leaned forward, as did a number of others. And what would be the most unusual thing, Severus? As he frowned deeply, Snape looked down at the table in concentration. What is most unusual about this is that the Dark Lord has suffered a wound to the head somehow. A wound that appeared to be cursed, and that none have been able to fully heal. It is best not to mention it within his range of hearing, though, as he killed one Death Eater, Johnson, when he asked the fellow who harmed the Dark Lord. Even calling any form of attention to it could draw the Dark Lord's ire. Knowing what the unasked question was, Albus only steepled his fingers. Interesting. And while I do have an inkling as to what may have caused such a wound, I am afraid that I cannot say anything more on the matter until some of my own investigations are complete. Despite being highly curious, Snape still nodded in agreement. While the meeting came to an end and Sirius was about to join Remus and Molly, when the throat being cleared caused him to turn to see Hester standing behind him. Hester? Hester tucked some strands of her hair behind her ear and she softly smiled. Can we talk for a few minutes, Sirius? Giving a glance towards Remus, Sirius nodded at her with a smile of his own. Sure. I don't mind spending some time with a beautiful woman. A laugh burst from Hester as she shook her head. Still over the flirt, huh, Sirius? There was a wistful expression on her face as she leaned against the countertop. Then again, it's something that I'm rather glad to see come back. With her head tilted to the side, Hester crossed her arms across her chest. I'm glad to see you coming back to what you were, Sirius. For a moment, Sirius searched her face for something before he smiled warmly back. It feels good to be getting back to where I was. For that, you can thank my godson. After all, I'm no longer useless, and now, knowing what you meant, Hester reached across the space that separated them and grasped his hand. And now with Peter caught and his allegiance revealed, remember your promise? With a blink, Sirius nodded as he frowned. Yeah, I remember it. And if I'm ever free, you can be sure that I'll make bloody damn sure that I'll keep it. Just like I said that I would. If anything, Hester's smile brightened a bit before she reached up against his cheek. You better, Black. We'll be waiting for you to keep that promise, even though it's been more than a decade. And with that, Hester told in place before she left, giving a grinning Sirius a wink before she was out of sight. For a few seconds, Sirius closed his eyes and flashes of black and red hair went through his mind. Then he opened his eyes and walked towards Moody, who raised an eyebrow at him. What was that all about, now? Chuckling, Sirius only shook his head. Just being reminded of something back before I was sent to prison, old man. Then the three left for a room upstairs and entered to see Tonks and Dumbledore already there. Sorry about not coming right away. However, Albus only waved him off. It's quite all right, Sirius. We're not in any rush after all. Once the door was closed and several privacy spells put onto it, Albus frowned thoughtfully. I must say, though, I do wish that you had told me that there were others such as Rose. Sirius only shrugged. It was Harry's secret to keep, and if things had not happened as they did, Remus and I would have kept them secret for him. Pulling out a mirror, he tapped it. Rose, it's serious. Could you tell Veronica that we're ready for her? A few seconds later, the room got deathly cold, and the light seemed to dim before a golden fox animatronic suddenly appeared in the corner of the room. It then rose to its feet and looked around at the various people before Molly caught her attention. Are you Veronica? There was a pause before Veronica slowly nodded. Yes, I'm Veronica. Why? Then got cut off as Molly walked over and pulled her into a hug. Thank you. Thank you for saving my husband. Goggles on, Erica slowly put on the last bit of the costume onto Polly. The colorful feathers of the exoskeleton, along with soft rubber used in various places, transformed the parrot animatronic into a much more lifelike version. Taking a deep breath, Erica pulled away and took off her goggles before she glanced at Olive, who was beside her, as well as Lakia, who tilted her head. Part of Erica was much happier as now they had given Lakia an actual costume head, which let them see her expressions. A look to her side showed an interested Vicky. So then, is everyone ready to see if we've done it? Excited, Olive seemed to nearly bounce in places. Beside her, Lakia tried to keep her from jumping around. Yes, Mummy, I want to talk with Polly again. You made him so pretty. A chuckle escaped from Vicky, who pulled out a cord and connected one end to the laptop set out nearby. Can't say that I'm not excited to see all our work come to life again. With a smile, Erica took the other end of the cord and plugged it into the small hidden socket in the back of Polly's head. Okay, just give me a moment here. Putting the laptop close, she entered several commands. Slowly, the parrot twitched and shuddered as its systems came online. After almost a minute, it opened its eyes and flapped its wings as it looked around. And there we go. It looked at her curiously until Olive gasped to her paws held against her mouth. Polly, how are you? Focusing on her, it blinked. Be that you, Olive, me lass? You be much different. Now practically bouncing, Olive nodded. Yep, Mommy fixed me up all better. It made me look different. She puffed her chest out. My name is now Olive Audibly Perks. Perks is my mummy's last name. Tilting his head, Polly blinked. You be having a mummy then? Who? In reply, Olive pointed towards Erica, who was watching this all in amusement. That's my mummy right there. Her name is Erica. Leaning in, Olive whispered towards Polly, who had also leaned in. Her name is really pretty. Curious, Polly shifted a bit and ignored the snaps and crackles inside it, which Erica knew was the old parrot bones being broken and ground by the mechanisms. Yippee, my matey's no mummy then? Well, blow me down and call me a chicken. Thank ye for making me matey happy. Then he noticed Lakia, and the small corners of his mouth turned upwards into a slight smile. And Lakia too. Well then, this be a right proper union. Much to Erica's surprise, there was a crackle from Lakia before he nodded. It'd be good to see you again, Comrade Polly. The dog can talk. What? His head bobbing, Polly turned back to Erica and noticed that she seemed to be working on her computer. Wow now, that there thing be much smaller than what I used to be. Smiling, Erica nodded a bit as she turned to the parrot. Technology has come a long way, Polly. Hope you don't mind, but I'm installing some software patches to help you out. A crackle came from the parrot, who turned its head from side to side. I be not minding much, Erica, my lass. I be feeling better now. Hold on, wait. I be feeling better now than I have in years. While she nodded, Erica turned towards Vicky. Am I getting Polly one of the mirrors we have? Upon seeing the fox animatronic, Polly blinked. Well, I be. It's looking like the old foxy puppet. Having gone in the mirror, Vicky only grinned. Well, I am about 2 generations after you. The real Foxy is elsewhere. Polly ignored that, though, as he walked up and looked himself over in the mirror in surprise. I be looking like I did way back when before. Interested, Erica frowned a bit as she leaned her chin against her fist. Well, we had to go off some photos of you, as well as the colors from some notes about your old costume, which was based on your original self. But I hope you like it. There was shock on the parrot's face as he blinked. Like it? Lass, I be loving it. Now I be looking like a proper parrot and not a plucked grouse. Arg. though I'd not be saying no to something to crunch on. As she smiled, Erica reached into a drawer and pulled out several nuts, which she held up to Polly. Gently, he took each one and ate it with his eyes closed in enjoyment. Welcome to our crazy family, Polly. Welcome. Outside the old, worn-down pizzeria, all was silent, until a giggle could be heard. A hand, turning blue in the cold, put a key into the lock and turned it. Despite it being more than 20 years, the key unlocked the door and the man walked in. Breath visible, he took a deep, elastic whiff of the air. Smells like fun. Having closed the door behind him, the man seemingly didn't care about the cold or the bloodstains on his clothing as he walked down the halls. Despite the lights being off, he was able to walk to his destination by memory alone and soon found himself in front of a hole busted into a wall. Little children, where are you? Come out and play. I've got something for you. The man walked through the hole in the ground before he pulled out a flashlight and showed it around. Lovely, lovely memories. He noticed the red stain and walked up before he kneeled down and ran his hand along it with giggles. I see you. Several minutes he ran a hand along each of the red stains with giggles before he fell back with his arms and legs outstretched. The laughter burst from him before he stopped with a grin. Such lovely screams. Making lovely lullabies for me. Break and crush your bones. Make sweet melodies. Rip and tear. Shows I care. His mouth opened. He kicked his legs out in glee. Blood and tears, sweet as wine, my lovelies. Soon we'll relive our fun. Then he stopped and sat up and turned. Oh my, oh me, oh my. Looks like some old friends are calling. In the doorway, both Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie glared at him. You! Giggling, the man hopped to his feet and spread out his arms. It's me! With a snarl, both Shadow and animatronics leapt at him as he laughed. You did this! We'll kill you! Suddenly, both froze in place as all the man did was giggle. You can't! Walking up to the two, he grinned as he stroked along Shadow Freddy's jaw as the frozen animatronic shuddered in disgust best it could. Then he cooed at them. It's okay. Soon we'll have such fun in the joy of creation. Even though he was frozen, Shadow Bonnie still managed to growl. We'll never help you. All that got then was another giggle. You have no choice. Leaning in towards Shadow Bonnie, who shuddered, the man licked his lips in glee. But we have time before I leave, and I will hear your sweet sympathy as we have some fun together. Us three. It has been such a long time. It was rather lucky that the building was soundproof, as otherwise the laughter and screams might have attracted an unlucky passerby. And that's the end of chapter 27. That's a little creepy, honestly. But hopefully I did a good job with the creepiness of the guy. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. Be sure to subscribe. Go leave a review. Go, go, go. You don't have to have a account to leave a review. It just means the author can't respond. And who knows? Maybe you'll get him to actually post a new chapter. Maybe it will inspire him. So go leave a review, and if you do, come back and tell me about it. But if you don't, then I do not want to know. So yeah. And be sure to subscribe. I upload new videos every Friday. And I will see you guys next Friday with a new video. Bye!